Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to Lucha-Masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at Lucha-Masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly. Hello and welcome to the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week, our team discusses news and events from this past week as well as previewing the week ahead. We cover Mexico-based promotions like AAA and CMLL, along with top independent and luchador-related news from WWE, AEW, MLW, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, and more. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on Central.com. This podcast and others of the Central Podcast Network are available on major podcast platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbay. I'm Miranda Morales, one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Weekly Podcast. And, well, this is a team effort. There is an I, Miranda, but not in. So let's bring in our other two co-hosts. The first one is the dashing one, Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Miranda. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Running through this intro like lightning, I think. But, I think it's because I'm very excited to get to this week's topics. Last week we literally had a jam-packed show. This week we do as well, but we do have some breathing room to talk about, some of the other happenings that are occurring in the independent scene, getting a little bit of a longer
things.
Yeah, preview some things. So I'm very excited for that. We have our other co-host. Well, who am I talking about?
Who?
That is Brendan Barr. Brendan, how's it going?
Not bad. How you doing?
Doing very well. I am so glad that we are all back together. It is my favorite part of Thursdays when we record this, kind of peeling behind the curtain. Many of you may be listening to this when it drops on Fridays, and maybe if you're week, that's good. I'm really curious, real quick. Is there certain days of the week that you have routine for certain things? Like we record this on Thursdays and then, drop it on Fridays. But are there things that, there's a very specific day of the week that you do certain things?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do my chores. Right. So pre-pandemic, I did my chores on Monday while I was supposed to be watching wrestling. So that way, anytime there was a boring match, I could go fold some laundry, do something else. Post-pandemic, I do all of my chores on Saturday now because that's when I'm going to be in front of the computer and the videos will be playing. So totally get as much housework as I can done, which is not a lot, mind you, but
still, that's a good plan. I have done laundry while watching wrestling as well. Yes. Dusty, what about you?
I always get donuts on Saturday morning. That's my most usual daily thing. I love donuts, and there's a lot of great places right around here to get donuts, so I end up with a lot.
I love donuts. I love donuts. It's like Steve Carell's character in Anchorman when he loves lamp. I love donuts.
Yes.
Plural.
Who don't love donuts to be untrustworthy. That's
science. That's science.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. What's your favorite kind of donut?
I like there's a maraschino cherry donut with a cherry glaze here at the grocery store close to my house, and I am obsessed with them. I buy them 3 at a time because I can't eat just one or even just 2. So, yeah, they're the best. Yeah, that's my fave.
I love those Boston cream pie style ones. That kind of the other nice thing about them for me is I only need one of those. Like if somebody hands me old fashions, I need like 2 of those. But one of those cream filled ones is more than enough to get my sugar craving and my hunger out of the way.
Yes, I'm a traditionalist. I like a traditional cake donut. Like even just plain. Dunkin' Donuts has a blueberry one that's like super good, but
those are good.
But just a plain cake donut, nothing on it. I don't know. Like that is my Achilles heels of donuts. I don't need anything super fancy. Though I will eat the crap out of it. I usually take what's presented. Yes, everyone, let us know what your favorite donuts are. That's what how I'm gonna pull it in this.
Don't send any. If you want to send donuts to the show, somebody else, because I will eat all of them, and I don't want to do.
I'll eat all of them.
Yeah, I guess that's you can take all the donuts.
Dusty volunteers his tribute for your donuts.
I can't resist them. I'll take them all.
And that's how you buy the cast host. These donuts. Well, now that we're all hungry and we're ready to go, let's kick off the show as we have in the past. Brendan, you're giving us some information on the road back to show. Some things change and some things stay the same.
Yeah. So speaking of changing, 10 of the 32 states in Mexico have gone to the yellow condition this week, which means if they stay there for, I believe it's 3 weeks, that's what I've been reporting the last few weeks, they could conceivably go to green, which may mean we're seeing our way out of this in some areas. You could probably tell by my hesitation, though, that Mexico City is not one of them.
Yeah.
Mexico City's still orange. We're still going to get these 30% capacity crowds, so it's probably not going to change for a while. I'm very curious to see how that's going to play out with things. I feel like the CMLL anniversary show is going to be a big kind of telling of what over the top big shows are going to look like in the pandemic era here. There was some other rumblings around. I just thought this was an interesting one to frame this. Athletes still can't go into Mexico to perform, even though seemingly they can come here to perform based on the fact that, Daga is working a couple of shows north of the border. We've seen, obviously, the Lucha Brothers make it to Florida. I don't know if they're staying in Florida, but they clearly made it past the border to do that. And a couple other people, ROH is starting to get their Lucha crew going, so clearly they can come north, but we can't go south. And then it was brought up again that Ace Austin, who I'm sure Miranda could tell us a lot more about, because he's been on TV on a couple of places to be watching him. He is the DTU Alto Impacto champion, and in an interview he was talking about maybe the people that want that belt should have a little mini tournament, because it's going to be a while before he makes it there, and then they can figure out who's going to wrestle him, which I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I always love a tournament.
Yeah, I love tournament. DTU's been putting on great little. Great. I shouldn't say little. They're pretty good in size considering the restrictions. Mm-hmm. Putting on great with fantastic kind of blocking and setting. Mm-hmm. So tournament might be fun for the next one. And then my last thing for our road back today is just more on one of my subjects near and dear to my heart. Wrestling. So we've talked before about schools that are struggling. Pro Wrestling Revolution is selling the Lucha Mask on luchamask.com to try and make sure that they can keep up with their financial needs while they're very limited on people that can physically be in classes. And a legend in Lucha Libre, Dr. Wagner Jr., is opening up a school in Torreon. So, so cool. the cynic in me is thinking that that's probably just a place where he and his sons can wrestle and then charge other people to show up. But even still, if I were a young luchador in Mexico, that would be an exciting school to try and
for sure,
some time in,
just to get the rub from seeing those guys up close and how they work would be an incredible benefit. And so many wrestlers are tactile learners. If they see it and touch it, they can do it. And so that, even if they just watched, I think it would be an incredible experience for people.
It's very true, yeah. I didn't get a lot of announcements if he's going to do a hybrid class like a lot of people are experimenting with, or if it's going to be all in person. But just seeing that he's going to open a school is going to be, it's really good news for the future of Lucha Libre. So, another great legend is able to teach classes. They're not all holed up in the Mexico. Some of them are out and about.
Yeah, very cool. He's probably not too welcome to train at Arena Mexico anyway. Without that contract,
that's a whole other subject for sure. It would be an interesting question. He's even welcome back right now. I don't want to speculate on that. I mean, we don't have that much pull, so we're not really stirring the pot. But it's the world of Lucha Libre internal politics is a very bizarre place. So it's hard for us as outsiders to understand sometimes.
Yes, that's very true.
All right, so that's my road back to shows. It's short and sweet, but lots of good news for once. Like none of that depressing stuff where nothing's happening and we get to look forward to weeks of promo packages.
Again, as some things change and others stay the same. I think that is definitely the sign of what's happening in Mexico. But, it does look like the fact that some places are closer to, being in the green means hopefully, eventually that will creep into Mexico City.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for that for Seattle too, but that's.
Well, next up though, Brennan, you're not done yet because you have this week's Indie Roundup.
All right, that always gets me. I'm
glad.
We have a few shows this week. I managed to find on the Mas Lucha YouTube channel. I managed to find some of the Lucha Time stuff that, for whatever reason, I'm not finding on Facebook where I thought it was supposed to be. But I found the Nueva Era episode 4, and it was another 4-match sort of affair, just a little under an hour. Pretty decent stuff. Just dive right into it. We had a match with Rey Destroyer and Nocivo versus Black Spider Jr. and Radar. That was you're talking about an undercard match with a card full of young guys. So you can imagine the amount of energy and the fact that it took probably less than 2 minutes to get a dive out of these guys was not at all surprising. Definitely a good way to start off a night. Nice high energy match. Rey Destroyer and Nocivo got the win. Then you have Baby Extreme and Vertigo versus Punk Clown and Alex Black. It was a fun tag match. Again, I'm starting to develop more context on story they're doing in Lucha Time, so things will go better as far as that from enjoying and watching these things. And this one had lots of story in it because at the end of it, you had everybody angry at everybody. Tag team partners were yelling at tag team partners. I heard a dirty word and payaso, so I assume they were talking about Punk Clown. So Baby Extreme and Vertigo won, but really the story coming out of this is like all of these teams look like they're on the verge of breaking up and they all want to fight each other. So maybe in episode 5 we see some payback on that. Then next we had Medico Brujo Sick Boy versus Bomba and Granada, and they just brawled, and eventually, and I had to rewind and look for this. The referee just counted them out and told the timekeeper to ring the bell. If you're into big brawls and scrums, this was definitely a good match for you. I did not like the fact that they didn't have a bell or a graphic or something to tell me the match was over because, as you might imagine, they were still brawling after the ref. I'm using the air quotes. You can't see me at home, but ended the match. They just kept brawling for 3 minutes. So I wish that I could have gotten a little more on that, but it was fun. And then the last one is Epidemus versus Hijo del Espectro, and Epidemus came out on top of that. There was a little bit of shenanigans. I thought Hijo del Espectro and the other legacy wrestlers were going to be like the main card rudos or heels in this, but Hijo del Espectro got kind of beat down after the match by Epidemus and a few other people, so maybe plans have changed. I don't know. Stay tuned, I guess, because now that I found the stuff, I'm going to hopefully be updating Lucha Time a lot more. I'm still trying to talk with my guys. We've got, if you're into this Lucha Time thing or don't know what I'm talking about, there's plenty more to come. Also this weekend, they broadcast part 3 of IWRG Rey del Ring. I'm going to be straightforward on this. I did not watch as much of this as I wanted to because it was happening while I was doing some personal things. But I was chatting with Eric Muter, who was doing the Lucha Central results, and more or less he was live blogging it. So I think I have the right winners. A lot of the time he was more excited about the things that happened at the end of the match, so I was confused as to who actually won, which I think is great. That tells me it was a good match. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, that's up on Lucha Central. It's something to the effect of we're gonna have fun until the stream dies, I believe is what he called it, and that was kind of the story of IWRG streams at times, is that they are suffering from technical problems. But we started off with Shadow Boy and Ray Halcón, and Ray Halcón Jr. came out on top on that one. Then we had Puma de Oro versus Toxin, and what was sounding like an extremely exciting match. And I mean, both of these guys are fun to watch. So I saw some highlights of it. Good. Toxin came out on top on that one. Dragonbane versus Yoshioka. I'm already not able to speak Spanish, and now I have to speak Japanese words too. So Dragonbane came out on top of that one. Demonio, Infernal, and Fresario Jr. versus the Traumas. If there was a submission win in there, Eric tends to agree with me. I was watching this one because the stream was working at that point in time, and I was done with my stuff. It was very good. I love the Traumas. For those of you who are unaware, they are a little bit affiliated with Negro Navarro and his kind of more grappling style, so I've been trying to watch more of their matches. And it looks like Demonio Infernal and Fresario Jr. came out on top with the submission in there, but again, I'm sure someone who was paying better attention to things, if they know better, then you can let me know and I will update this result. I apologize. Hijo de Canos Lupus and Shun Skywalker in the main event, and Shun Skywalker put on a show, and he did win. It was a good match. Again, you're dealing with a lot of younger guys, so this was a very athletic contest. I don't know if either of you got a chance to watch it. It was up for free on YouTube and it's been up, but that was the Rey del Ring of it. It was really, I don't want to make it sound like Eric was doing a bad job. He was having fun and he gave good coverage. That is an amazing article on there. I just was looking at that and was too drawn into the fun that was going on when I was doing my notes. Did you guys see it at all?
No, I haven't yet. I'll have to check that out. It sounds exciting. Love Shun Skywalker.
And my last one that I've got here is I shouldn't say my last one. My last one I've got on this page. Okay, yeah, I've got at least one more. I've got Lucha Libre Vanguardia. And I don't know, did either of you see this? I know Miranda said that you follow them, so you might have seen it.
I haven't been able to see it yet, but I do follow Vanguardia on social media, so I do get to see some of the clips that they post on, but haven't been able to see the full show. I have seen, I think, is this where they had the death match?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen pictures of that. I'm not going to spoil it all, but yeah.
I'll
let you run with it.
You, interestingly enough, even though I had really good feed on that, I did not watch a lot of that because the death match was carnage. So I was trying my best to lean from Spanish commentary while looking anywhere but at the screen during a lot of this match. But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. There, the opening match was Mascara de Angel and Alpha Jr. Again, you've got two very young guys who wanted to put on a good show, and they definitely set a good tone. I could easily nitpick any of these indie matches because indie matches have a little less polish on them than you're seeing on TV, but that's why you see what you see on TV because they want to please everybody. But these were great matches, great matches, all of them. I have Mascara de Angel, and then we had Billy and Murdoch. I love these names. Murdoch, that's my lucha name. It's not as great as Fred. But, Billy and Murdoch versus Falcon Fire and Missionero, and Billy and Murdoch won. They are part of a faction called Los Fugitivos, and that is apparently a debut win for them. So good job to them. That sounds like we're going to see a lot more Billy and Murdoch doing Billy and Murdoch thing, whatever that turns into. We have Gasparin and Simbolo Azteca against Kill Corton and Tromba, and Principe Aero and Resplendo. Tromba and Kill Corton were last-minute additions to this. Sorry, my notes confused me for a second there. Gasparin Jr. and Simbolo win, but again, the story coming out of this, because you can't have too much straight-up matches, was there was a big scrum afterward. So I'm assuming the good guys wound up getting beat down. Again, I'm working on learning who the Technicos and heels are, and with no fans, and Rudos. With no fans, it's a little harder sometimes. Then we had Drastic Boy, Junior, Cobra, and Latigo in a four-way scrum. Drastic Boy got the pin on Cobra, and here we go. It's the Inferno Death Match. Crazy King, Flystar, Medio Extremo against Caballero de Atina, Dragon Boy, Jitsu, and Ray Dragon. So what did you see in the footage there, Miranda? Because, like I said, I saw a lot of blood and a lot of crazy. Yeah,
these are actually more pictures from, they posted on social media. They have pictures from each match, actually, some really well done pictures. But this in particular highlights all of the madness from that death match. I mean, the one that stands out is a piece of wood that was set on fire, set in between two chairs, and someone getting suplex, it looks like, or jumped into that flaming piece of wood. There was also fluorescent light tubes. So there's a big one of a bunch of shards of fluorescent light tube all jumping up from the ground. And it looks like after some kind of suplex that occurred. So I didn't get to watch it, but on the Lucha Vanguardia social media, specifically their Facebook, they have lots of pictures.
They do have a lot of pictures.
Of them. Yeah, this one in particular, though, is... And
they're much safer pictures than trying to watch this in live action if you're a little squeamish about a little bit of the color, as Dusty Rhodes used to put it. I like I said, I spent a lot of time not watch the very crazy parts of it, but it did end with Crazy King, Flystar, and Medio Extremo getting a win, and there was interference and other craziness, and Ciclope, who was supposedly banned for life after their last event, their last event, showed up and threw somebody into an ice cream truck as part of their big signature moment in this match. So that was kind of cool. And it makes me, it's wrestling. Nobody's gone unless they worked for CMLL, I guess. I'm just throwing that shade out there for no particular reason. The last indie event I've got is Cantina Extrema, which I believe happened 2 weeks ago. You had Crazy Boy against Blaze. Crazy Boy got the win there. You had Arrow, Panther, Dragon Suicida, and Principe Arrow against Darius, Meta Tiger, and Samurai Jr. Arrow, Panther, Dragon Suicida, and Principe Arrow got the win. You had Yoshioka against Keleth, Kevin, Hormiga, and Flyward, and Yoshioka got the win. Another one, just Kevin. You have people who name themselves after death. There's angels. There are colors, and then there's Kevin.
Yeah.
And I have a team.
Well, it takes a lot of pride in it. Kevin is a way of life.
Gotta be. And then I have a name now for the Brazos that I've seen at a lot of these DTU events. So Brazo Celestio, Brazo Cibernetico Jr., and Brazo da Oro Jr. are calling themselves Los Bad Boys, and they were in a match against Blackfire, Paranoico, and Pesadilla, and they did get the win. But I mean, really, the big story for me was I now know what they are calling their faction. To Dusty's point, I really like it. And then we had Hijo de Dr. Polux, Polux. I have no idea how to even pretend to say that one. Dr. Polux Jr. Against Avorto Corsario Negro Jr. Polux.
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 Hijo de Dr. Polux Jr.
Chineke and okay, so let me start all over again. Hijo de Dr. Polux against Avorto, Corsario Negro, Chineke, and Sick Boy. And Hijo de Dr. Polux Jr. won the thing. And I am winning by learning how to pretend to say that. And then we had the main event. Dr. Wagner Jr. and Skywalker against Baby Extreme and Camouflage. And oh my goodness. So there was even an article about this, but Camouflage has been used in every DTU main event and always in there against a legend. So they seem to be building him up really big, and the news is noticed. However, Dr. Wagner Jr. and Shun Skywalker got the win on this one. So a little surprising, but not that surprising. It is Dr. Wagner Jr.
Yeah, he's the best, man.
Yeah.
This is one that I didn't get to see either. I saw their pictures, their visuals for DTU as always are just glorious and gorgeous, and I saw the wrap up with all the guys in the main event in a couple of pictures, and it just looked like a really fun and exciting match, and I really look forward to being able to see some of these pay-per-view matches on YouTube or somewhere else at some point, because they always seem to have a really great presentation. But that's the indie roundup for this week.
DTU's having another show, correct? I don't know when, but I know the title, De Patria Extrema.
Yes, they announced the name. I was not able to get a date, which is why I was saving that for a week of the road ahead at some point. But, yeah.
Spoiler alert, everybody.
Not at
My
all.
bad.
No worries. The name is out there. The date is probably out there, too. But as you may have noticed, I had a lot of things because I had to catch up with some of last week's indie stuff, too.
Yeah. And a lot of this information with Lucha Libre, Vanguardia, and DTU, those are with some of the video that is available. So if you are interested in reviewing these shows or some of the other independent Libre promotions that are putting some shows out there, you can find that on .com. And, well, next we kick it off to Denise Salcedo with this week's Lucha Central.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. Sundays on the Lucha Central Facebook page, world-traveled shooter of the camera of kind, Jerry Villagrana goes mano a mano with a fellow photographer to throw down about some of their favorite photos they have taken at Lucha Libre events. Monday, Business of the Business returns as Masked Republic President Kevin Kleinrock takes you inside how your favorite Lucha Libre merchandise gets made. On Tuesdays, Mass, and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live is WrestleBoss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central Central. Have a great week.
As always, a big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who voices this week's Lucha Central Central and gives us a breakdown on what's happening in the Lucha Central Podcast Network. Up next, Dusty has this event in WWE.
Yes. We had a lot of WWE Lucha news this week. First, we had Payback. We finally got to WWE Payback. And our big Lucha match of the night, we had Rey and Dominic Mysterio versus the Monday Night Messiah himself, Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. Los Emilia Mysterio worked together like a much more seasoned tag team than you'd think, just because for us as watchers, they've only done this a couple of times, but you could really tell Rey and Dominic have worked a lot in the ring. It was awesome. And throughout, you could kind of see Rey smiling underneath the mask, which I really loved, because you could just see the pride and excitement for Rey in the match. But that's also been incredible for us as fans, because I feel like more than anybody else in wrestling, we as fans got to see Dominic grow up through the WWE. His spot with Eddie and Rey over who was the real Poppy was post WrestleMania 21 and SummerSlam 2005. So that's quite a long time to get to see his progression. And so this was really a special moment. He finally got his win. He pinned Murphy after a frog splash spot that could be considered a tribute to both of his fathers in the WWE. And it was easily the best match of the night. I think it's very fair to say that Dominic is already a very fine wrestler, and he really lives up to the family name. Even though he's new and kind of had a rocket strapped to his back due to his pedigree, I have no problem seeing Dominic near the top of the card already. And speaking of Dominic in action, we also had some lucha action on Monday Night Raw. First up, we had Dominic Mysterio, fresh off Sunday's win, facing Seth Rollins again. This time they're facing off for a chance to enter a number one contenders match, but he was replacing Rey, who was injured in the match at Payback and legitimately tore his bicep, but didn't tear it completely. It apparently won't need surgery, and he'll be back in a couple of months instead of like 8 months. And so that is excellent. But this was a great match. Seth had obviously been watching his lucha. He hit a Pentagon-inspired sling blade that looked fantastic. But after Dominic Dominic tried to hit a frog splash that didn't connect, Seth was able to hit the curb stomp and get the pin. I really wanted Dominic to win this one, but given the outcome later in the episode where Seth lost to Randy Orton and took the pin in a triple threat with Keith Lee, perhaps this was actually the best scenario for Dominic in this match, and he and Seth had worked much together. They could put on a fantastic match, whereas in the triple threat, if he had to take the pin and he hadn't worked with those guys. So yeah, I think it was great. But anyway, later on, we had a tornado tag team match. Angel and Andrade with Zelina versus the Street Profits again. I feel like we've seen this matchup every single week for the entire summer.
Every single week.
Every week. And I did not love the match. Angel tore away the Versace track pants during the commercial. That's one of my favorite spots in every match.
Why would they say that
during
for
the commercial?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, see, that's one of the best spots in every match he does. And then to do it during a commercial, that's like deflating. No. But it was clear that Street Profits were going to win again. But Retribution showed up. And what was actually kind of an interesting bit of character development for Angel when they showed up, he grabbed Bachelorette Demi and ran backstage somewhere, and he left Andrade and even Ric Flair's favorite manager, Zelina, to take a beating from Retribution, only to run into Retribution backstage and abandon Bachelorette Demi so he could get away. And so it leaves me wondering what Retribution wants with Angel, because I felt like they clearly sought him out and followed him backstage, but even though they had the chance, they never really put their hands on him. So there's something kind of interesting about that, I think.
Maybe he's actually leading Retribution.
That would be fantastic.
I mean, that also would not make any sense, though. I have to admit, like, there's nothing about Angel Garza that, like, screams like he is this leader of a faction that, like, causes mayhem. And I'm just saying.
And dresses kind of in all black and hoodies, like
right? Yeah. He's way more fashionable. If they were, if he was leading them, they all have tearaway.
Yeah, Versace track jackets, tearaway pants.
And I see none of that. Yep. So take them off the list.
And afterwards on Raw Talk, after he'd lost Demi due to the actions, Zayn tried to pitch his woo at Charlie Caruso again, but she wasn't having it. She didn't fall for his charms, even after he tells her that the variety of rose that he's been giving her is named the Charlie Caruso. And she asks him to leave, and R-Truth drops the most amazing line in Raw Talk history. He said, "That was cold, dog." She said, "Bye, Felicia." And then Raw Talk ends with Charlie standing proud and a little hurt and turned Angel away. That was the end of the show. So that was kind
good for her. That's some good progress.
Yeah.
You don't need look. We know Angel. You know that's just part of his role. But girl, you do not need.
Men's don't control her.
I did want to swing back around to the Ric Flair thing because there was more on that online too. So. There was Dusty was referencing that Ric Flair said in an interview that he thinks Zelina is the best manager in WWE today. Which, first off, on its own, huge compliment.
Yeah.
Do not disagree that she is a fantastic manager. But so other online groups have run with, and they ran a poll with Zelina and a few other wrestlers on there to see, and they're like, who do you think is the best mayor? And Zelina did seem to be very popular with the fans, so I was very excited.
That's awesome. Yeah, she's my favorite manager in WWE easily.
Yeah, she's just, she embodies what really a modern day manager is as well, because there was always this, I think at first they were viewing it as a strange business partner, Andrade, but she showed that, like, she's not a valet, she is someone who takes that manager role seriously. So yeah, I think that she really embodies what a modern day wrestling manager is and could be.
And still manages to sneak in some cosplay and play video games on Twitch. So I mean, fantastic personality all the way around, as well as being definitely if you're talking about success in the WWE, is the most successful manager without a shadow of a doubt they've got. And then the most eye-catching too. I think everybody pays attention when Zelina's on screen, like whether
that's
you're
very
trying to catch,
true.
Yeah.
I watch wrestling with my wife a lot, and every time she comes on, she always mentions something about Zelina's outfit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, look,
right?
Whatever it is. And so like everybody, she catches everybody's eye. She's just she's just interesting looking. And I don't mean like she's beautiful and everything too, but like she just catches your eye. I mean,
that's not that's what I was more on about. Everybody I've talked to, and they notice her outfits, they notice her cosplay. So
the high heels,
or the insane high heels,
her jewelry, she has a lot of devil in the detail with her look.
She really does. The Muñeca necklace,
Muñeca.
Okay.
So I just had to throw that out there.
I love that. Like I learn something every day. I love it.
Obviously, I personally appreciate being corrected on the pronunciation.
I do too.
Most of the time, you guys are pretty spot on. It's just when it's just hard, to be like, wait, what was the word? I just gotta make sure. But the Muñeca necklace too, and specifically though, like she has a lot on social media. It plays a lot on like a Barbie tone. So I think that. There's just so much, and we have seen her a little bit in the ring. I mean, not too long ago, she was in a three-way match too, teaming up with the now defunct Iconics. And I mean, the fact that she really could do both, but her skill set is more valuable. I think that's have been lost.
So unfortunately, you were breaking up for me, and I didn't catch the last little bit of what you were saying. You were. It sounded like you were starting to go in the direction of her skill set is as a manager, and which I agree. And obviously, we've documented she has a tremendous background in wrestling and the lucha libre.
Oh yeah, she's an amazing wrestler.
But I mean, she seems to be a transcendent manager. I hopefully I'm summarizing what you said because I wasn't able to catch all of it.
No, I couldn't agree more. She's the kind of the total package that way, and I think using her wrestling abilities kind of sparingly. I wish we could see her more. She's amazing, but I think using them sparingly makes them feel very special. She busts it out in a match when it's really necessary. And so I love the whole thing. Despite how damn bad I wish they had won the tag titles, I love everything else about it. Like I love Angel, I love Andrade, I love Zelina, I love their dynamic. I thought the Cowardly Angel thing was amazing.
Hilarious.
I ate the whole thing up. I just wish they had won. So
yeah. Well, it does make you wonder what's next, because as we mentioned in the beginning, we've seen this match literally every week, sometimes twice a week, for most of the summer. So what are they going to do next? What is next?
Yeah, like where do they go from here?
Even if they mysteriously win in the next iteration of this match, then we just know that now we're going to see at least 3 more matches with the Street Profits chasing the title again. So, like, that doesn't even entice me anymore.
My theory was that maybe they would team up somehow with Street Profits against the Retribution in some way, because that would kind of even up the numbers. And if they could get Bianca Belair, the EST of the WWE, on their side, that would help even up the women's numbers.
Yeah.
That would be good. It doesn't seem I
could get behind that.
Yeah, they just don't seem to have a direction yet for Retribution. We still don't know who they are, what they're there for, what all of this is for. And I just feel like that's just one thing that has bothered me about this. It feels like they just dropped things, like we never knew who poisoned Montez. What we seemingly thought was going to be a title change has never happened. And so I think
I thought they were going to blame the poisoning on Retribution. at some point.
Hey,
you know
my theory. It was Demi's fault. Demi was the one who did it.
Yeah.
I think
Demi's with them. Maybe that's why they didn't attack Angel.
Demi's the leader of Retribution.
At this point, though, 2020. I don't know what to do. That would be what would happen. We'd have all this hoopla for some girl from The Bachelor, faction leader, whatever, WWE. I wouldn't be surprised by what you do.
If she's good, I'd get behind it. Like,
I would be interested enough to pay attention to that storyline.
That's the thing. Like, if she's secretly really good in the ring, and that happens, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. Oh, and we can't forget SmackDown. We had SmackDown, and we had Kalisto versus Cesaro, and this was actually a really good match. Really, really good. It wasn't long enough, in my opinion. It felt rushed. It was only about 4.5 minutes. But I definitely recommend you check it out if you haven't seen it already. And despite holding his own throughout the match, after a Shinsuke run out and a Lucha House Party run in to kind of equalize Andrade, or Shinsuke rather, sorry, he still lost. Kalisto lost. But they had their little get-together party at the end for Lucha House Party, and they all reunited, which was kind of an amazing moment for them, and hopefully it sticks. Lindsay posted about it on Instagram. There was some social media reconciliation. But then we also have some, in WWE news, some breaking news. Breaking news.
Like
Cartoon Network. Yeah, Cartoon Network Latin America announced just seconds ago that they're going forward with an original production agreement with Rey Mysterio to make a cartoon called Viva Calavera, and it came out at the Cartoon Network Day at the 2020 Pixelati Festival, and they announced that it is closed an agreement with the founders of Viva Calavera to produce the animated project with Rey Mysterio, and the cartoon will be based on him. He'll be the kind of main character. It'll tell his story. Everybody admires Rey Mysterio. My son refers to him as the hero of his childhood whenever he talks about him. Like, kids love Rey Mysterio. And so this will kind of give them a new way to see it, and it'll kind of help them associate with him in a way that I feel like only maybe Blue Demon and Santo have before in Mexico with their omnipresence through media. And so
he's really replicating that now. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really going to be exciting. I don't know right now if it will be coming to America, but I assume it will be available in some form. And
the details are obviously just still pouring into it.
They're breaking as we're reading this to you. And but the show will be about Rey Mysterio, and there's like a plot to threaten the world, and Rey Mysterio has to fight that plot. And his number one fan discovers what's going on, and together he and his number one fan wrestle and fight bad guys, and there's mythology and history and magic and supernatural beings. It really sounds fantastic, honestly. It sounds amazing.
That's an old school luchador movie right there.
Oh,
yeah. Things you just described.
Yeah, werewolves and zombies and ghosts. Those are always the best luchas, and my favorite was the mummies.
I was all about the
See, I'm more of a zombies kind of person, so I think we cover the whole spectrum.
Speaking of that, it's Halloween, so I'm going to be watching a lot of luchador movies. Halloween season started, so I'm going to be watching a lot of luchador movies. So, fans, Dusty, send me your recommendations on stuff I want to put me in the mood.
I'll go through my DVD collection, see what I can't remember the name of the two that I like the best off the top of my head, but I've got the DVD, so I'll let you know.
All right.
Well, this news and, of course, the reviews and highlights of Monday Night Raw SmackDown, and Payback are all available on luchacentral.com. And again, our breakings of Rey Mysterio partnering with Cartoon Network Latin America, that can be found on luchacentral.com. A quick note, too, and an interesting one at that, this is not associated with the WWE, which is actually very surprising that, and a sign of Rey Mysterio's status and kind of caliber as, a wrestler, that he's able to do this, likely with the blessing of WWE, but they're not involved in this project. And usually they like to get their hands on these types of things, especially, if it's really, Rey Mysterio in his own partnership with Viva Calavera and Cartoon Network Mexico. Or I'm sorry, Cartoon Network Latin America.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and I think this is a sign that he's achieved omnipresence in a way that only a few people have. Like I say, Blue Demon and Santo, but also like Hulk Hogan. When people think of like a wrestler, they used to think of Hulk Hogan for years and years. But now, when you think of a luchador, most people think of Rey Mysterio, and especially in America. And so I think that it's just a recognition of his status and his elevation to being an icon and not just a star.
Absolutely.
Well, else happening in the world of wrestling is AEW. Of course, we had Dark and Dynamite this week, but we also have All Out coming at us on Saturday. So, Dusty, take us through this week in AEW.
Yes. We started September with some amazing wrestling on AEW Dark. If you're not watching Dark, you're really missing out. This has been consistently some of the best and most underrated wrestling in America. And first up, we had Proud and Powerful versus first-time AEW wrestlers Fabu, Andre, and Ryzen. And they just whooped these guys' ass. Like it wasn't even a competition. Proud and Powerful destroyed them.
They were setting the tone that they wanted to win on Saturday, and they did it.
There was an amazing Ortiz powerbomb with a big Santana kick for the finisher over the top rope. It was fantastic. It was poetry in motion. And then after the match, Santana says that best friends caught him unaware last week, and he's excited to send them home to their mom. And Ortiz tells Trent, speaking of his mom, that Sue needs to quit blowing up his phone, but she can keep his drawers as a gift, the ones he left behind.
They're cutting in deep with these promos.
Oh boy, such a great way to advance the feud. Talk about somebody's mom. That's fighting words. Like they have to fight now.
Oh, man,
so it sets up Dynamite, sets up All Out. So exciting. Okay. Next up in Lucha Action, there was a match between Frankie Kazarian and Angelico. And I was super excited for this match when I heard it would be on this week. Frankie Kazarian is really underrated, in my opinion, especially as a singles wrestler. And Angelico is one of my favorites. Like, he's just so good. But these are also both really long-time wrestlers who have been all over the world and wrestled everywhere. And so I love it when we get to see the mixed styles of two fantastic wrestlers come together like that. And we saw some old school mat wrestling at the beginning, which I don't think I had ever seen Angelico do before, but was really interesting. And commentary called out that he was trained in the Yaveo style, the kind of, stronger submission style of Lucha Libre, and that his trainer was Negro Navarro, and that was really cool for us Lucha fans. But unfortunately, Angelico lost after trying to hit a splash mountain. Casario was able to keep his balance and slide out, and he hit a reverse DDT and got the pin. But still, this was a really cool match, and I loved it. It was easily the match of the night for me, and I think everybody should check it out. Angelico is one of the finest wrestlers in the world, and he deserves all the exposure on TV he can get, so go check it out. And then our final Dark Lucha match of the night was Jurassic Express versus John Cruz and David Ali, also in their AEW tag team debut. This was a fun and really awesome match. Jungle Boy got to do tons of flips and kicks, and he just generally looked like a superstar the entire match. Jurassic Express got the win, and they really made Cruz and Ali look like stars even in their loss. Like, they got a hot tag during the match. They really looked great. And this is how squash matches should be evolving, and I'm here for that. I enjoy that. And then the next night, we had AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite. And first up, we had Proud and Powerful versus Best Friends. And before the match even started, things were insane. It started with a brawl during the intros, and it just went off the rails from there in the very best way. Ortiz was choking out Trent and yelling to Sue on the camera. Santana threw a chair in what looked like a super dangerous spot. And Chucky Taylor took a fall. He'd built up a chair castle. He was going to try to throw Santana through. Santana saw what he was doing, took advantage, threw a chair, hit him in the face, knocked him into the chair castle, knocked it over. And there were so many awesome spots before the bell ever rang. The match finally ended with Santana and Trent in the ring, and Santana and Ortiz worked perfectly together. They picked up the win after Santana found this collapsible baton. I guess he planted it earlier, obviously, under the ring and pulled it out during the match, extended the baton, whacked Trent across the spine, threw it back. Ortiz was able to grab him then. They put him in the street sweeper. This was an amazing and very solid opening match. I loved the psychology of where Best Friends were trying to do too much, and it just kept blowing up in their face. You know, like no matter what they did, it blew up in their face. And it was such a great match because I thought that, like, that chair castle, like, who would take the time to do that? And that's why. So after that, we had a big 8-man tag match with SCU and Private Party versus Young Bucks and Lucha Express to see who faces each other at All Out in a tag team match. I don't think it's a number one contendership match, but I don't know. Who knows with that one? Maybe it's just a tag team match for tag team wrestling. But this was a Young Bucks that we are not used to. They were more intense. They didn't pose at all during the entrance. They walked out. They kind of, it was just more serious and more purpose, and they wrestled with more purpose than usual throughout the match. It wasn't the fun Young Bucks that we're kind of used to. But despite that, Jungle Boy was really the star of this match. His resilience is just fantastic in the ring. He has so much star power when he's inside that ring. And eventually Young Bucks and Lucha Express picked up the win, and they will be facing each other Saturday at the 2nd annual All Out pay-per-view. Then next up, we had a spot for the Battle Royale with Taz and Cage and Starks coming out. And then Jake Roberts comes out with Lance Archer, and he made some pretty weird analogies. And then Eddie Edwards comes out with Butcher and Blade, my boys Phoenix and Pentagon, or Penta El Zero M, as he's known now in AEW. And Tully Blanchard came out with Sean Spears, Billy Gunn, Darby Allin, Serpentico. Babu Andre from Dark came back. He was in the ring. Everybody brawled. It was awesome. Pentagon and Phoenix looked amazing. And then the Inner Circle and Best Friends came out to join the brawl. It was awesome. I love seeing the battle royals. I love seeing so many dudes in the ring at one time, like the Stars. This is everything I love about American wrestling. This was the kind of thing that I loved when I was a little kid. And so as an adult, it has a really special place. It never gets better than a battle royale. And made me excited. All Out. All these guys are going to have one with stakes on the line. Then next up, we had Thunder Rosa. She came out with her NWA title in an amazing Mexican-American flag. This has kind of been a thing for the women's division. They've been coming out with their flags, and I really like that. She went up against Serena Deeb, who we haven't heard from in a long time, but she has hair now. I was excited to see her back on TV. She's legitimately tough, and so is Thunder Rosa. So it was really cool to see how beautifully these two, legitimately tough women worked in the ring together. It was easily my favorite match of Dynamite. Commentary kept talking about how technically sound, how technically perfect this match was, and they weren't wrong. This match was really perfect. It got the right amount of time. It was awesome. And after about 10 minutes, Rosa hit the Thunder Driver, and she got the win. Then last week during Thursday Night Dynamite, which was airing kind of as and after we recorded the podcast, we had the first ever tables match on AEW Dynamite between Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara. And our boy Sammy, he was in the main event. The just a little rushed. Maybe they were pressed for time. It was only about 6.5 minutes long, but despite taking a couple of gnarly bumps, including this one where he cut his head, putting himself through a table, Sammy won after suplexing Matt off the top rope through a table, like Matt's special deleted table. It was amazing, and it's a huge win for Sammy Guevara. A win in the main event of Dynamite is a big deal for anybody, but especially for an up-and-comer like Sammy. He is really on his way to the very top. This week, he had his usual cue card spot on Dynamite, but Matt Hardy showed up somewhere up above him in the crowd, and he had his own cue cards, and he said after the match at All Out, Sammy will be broken. And so that sets up kind of our preview for All Out. The Lucha kind of relevant matches will be Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy, Thunder Rose versus Shida, the Battle Royale, and then Jungle Express versus the Young Bucks. So there's going to be quite a bit of Lucha action this weekend. Sets up an exciting all-out pay-per-view. I am excited to see what comes out of the Battle Royale. I didn't write it down in my notes, but I think it's for a chance at the AEW title. And so I'm excited to see. I would love to see somebody like Pentagon get a chance at a big win, a singles win where he wasn't necessarily. I think Phoenix gets more exposure on AEW through Dark and a little bit on Dynamite as a singles wrestler than Pentagon does. Some of that was just due to the COVID thing, with Pentagon obviously in Mexico and working with AAA. But now he's back. He's Penta El Zero M again instead of Pentagon, which is interesting. And, there was some back and forth over the ownership of the name. AAA owns the name in Mexico, and the media company that's owned by Lucha Underground and AAA owned the name in America, Pentagon Jr., and so then he was Penta El Zero M, and then he was back to Pentagon for a while in AEW, and they were obviously working with AAA. Kenny Omega is their Mega Campeon champion. And so but maybe, this was Triple Mania season, so maybe they, intended to drop the agreement around Triple Mania and he was supposed to drop the belt. And so they or maybe there was another reason for Pentagon's name change. It's hard to say, but it will be interesting to see what this means for AEW and AAA. Well, yeah. And there's more things we'll allude to later with AAA, but it's interesting, we'll allude to it later, but yeah, it's just interesting what might be going on there in the name change and the politics. But regardless, I would love to see him get a big singles win so that he's regarded as both a singles guy and a tag team guy, because they're really a tag team with two amazing singles wrestlers who are also an amazing tag team.
Yeah. On that subject of amazing tag teams, I wanted to look at the setup we've got here. So we've got Proud and Powerful went to 7-2 with their win against Best Friends, who were the number 2 tag team. We have the champions very likely to lose soon to an actual tag team. So we're looking at right?
Yeah.
Did I say that out loud? My apologies.
Well,
actually, sorry,
I was going to get there. I was totally going to get there. But we're looking at Proud and Powerful and Jurassic Express, 2 of the highest ranked tag teams. So that says a lot about what the Lucha will look like in there. And obviously, the Lucha Bros will also be in the mix as well, although who knows, they might wind up going for a singles route just to make room for more tag teams, because they don't need them as a Rudo tag team anymore. They just they could just use them in singles at this point. Who knows?
Yes, they could. Yeah, when they originally had Lucha Bros, their tag division wasn't quite as strong, but now they've got maybe a better tag division than a singles division. And so I can see where it would make sense to let some of the other tag teams shine and let Pentagon and Phoenix shine as singles guys, but they could also come in for tag matches to give a match a big feel. And I think it would elevate everybody that way.
Absolutely. And I was having technical problems, but I do want to give my shout out and my respect for that Angelico Kazarian match as well, because
it was so good.
Yeah, I mean, so they did put it over. The student of Negro Navarro, and then he puts on like a total, I believe it's pronounced Yave style match. So. It was fantastic, and I cannot recommend that enough for lucha fans. If you really want to see a traditional style of lucha libre that in an American presentation, that was a great match to watch. And words cannot express how excited I am for Thunder Rosa. So
yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's a highlight for me. I think the shocking part is that it's only had like a 3-week build-up. And I think it's one of the most anticipated matches on the card in the company, and even in women's wrestling, because it's very rare to find. I mean, you have Thunder Rosa, who's the NWA champion, going up against the AEW women's champion. So, this cross-promotional opportunity, seeing Thunder Rosa this past week on Dynamite, I mean, it's a very big deal to have this cross-promotion that we really rarely see in American wrestling. But, I mean, we're all fairly familiar with her due to her wrestling on the independent scene, her presence all over the world. But there's still a population of wrestling. So, I mean, the fact that this weekend could be the opportunity where she really gets a lot more eyes on her is fantastic. And I'm just very excited. Plus, I mean, this is a very comparable match when it comes to wrestling styles. I've been very critical on AEW with their women's wrestling, and not only in their story, but I do think the amount of time that they give matches and things like that. So, there is one other women's match on the card, but that is the pre-show, Britt Baker versus Big Swole.
Oh, I'm so excited for that too.
Yeah, that's an aspect of what they do. And again, they comedy very well. But I'm going to be a little disappointed if they don't put this fairly high on the card.
It deserves to be.
It's for a major title, so
and champion versus champion is huge.
Yeah, and I would like to point out to that effect that this was one of the very first times that I can think of that we got a full 10-minute women's match on television.
Yep.
So
it's been a
even
while.
though I would have liked to see her look a little more dominant, so that people are a little more worried going into this weekend's match, those who haven't seen Rosa before, it was still an amazing showcase, and I'm glad we got it.
Yeah. Very, very true. Real quick, so anyone else is kind of their most highly anticipated match on the card? I think we're all fairly good consensus with Sheeta and Thunder Rosa, but any others?
Yeah, my other one would be the Battle Royale. I think that's going to be our chance. There's more wrestlers to be announced, and, there's been some other luchadors. There's been some, I think Laredo Kid was in some early AEW, and so I would love to see somebody like that pop up in the match. Some surprise luchador.
That was on a thing that I was trying to be good on, but you brought it back up and reminded me. Laredo was there when they were clearly participating with AAA, and with the separation now, where Penta is now known as Penta L0M, and they've made a point of saying that very enunciatedly.
Yes.
That I feel like we may not be seeing as much AAA with AEW, and that's very disappointing to me, because I'd love to see a Laredo Kid make a surprise visit. I'd love to see Mr. Iguana, obviously.
Oh my gosh,
he would be perfect.
Yes, he would. The right amount of comedy, but badass, and he could go in there and break some necks.
Yeah,
I love it.
Mentioned that he'd love to wrestle Orange too, so that would be.
Oh yes.
Oh, what an amazing match!
Shut up,
oh my God, that's like a dream. That's a top 3 dream match right there.
That's an indie dream match for all of us wrestling hipsters out there. Sorry, I got carried away.
No.
All good.
Oh, so good.
All right. Well, again, the results for Dynamite and Dark are available on we had NXT on Tuesday, calling it Super Tuesday. And most of the show was taken over by the four-way Iron Man match to determine the new NXT champion. Unfortunately, Karrion Kross had to vacate the title on last week's episode of NXT shoulder injury. And on that same show, William Regal announced that there was going to be a four-way Iron Man match to determine new champion. And in that match, we had Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Finn Balor, and Adam Cole, baby, all competing to become the new NXT champion, which ended up in a tie. Finn Balor and Adam Cole both with 2 pinfalls each. So next week we are going to get a one-on-one match between Finn Balor and Adam Cole to determine the new NXT champion. So a really jam-packed, whole hour full of of that action.
So good.
And speaking, though, of jam-packed on the bookend side of this episode, the very first match this week was a street fight between Legado del Fantasma and Isaiah Swerve Scott, Team Rizango. And, everyone came into the ring with kind of their casual but street gear in mind. And, yes, this was a really high energy beginning. It's a street fight, so you had garbage can lids and chairs all over the place. There was a fantastic spot that you could see this on Lucha Central, actually, in the NXT results for the week. Isaiah Swerve Scott jumping off a forklift platform into the ring. And it was, that 205 division, is something else. But this was a very entertaining and fun match. Isaiah Swerve Scott got the pin on Santos Escobar, which that I think was a surprise after Santos, his successful win last week, his Cruiserweight Championship. But it seems like this story still has some length to go. We had even when Breezanko had won the NXT Tag Championships from Imperium last week, that maybe Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza. Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde, that they may be up next in line for a title opportunity. But I'm very interested in knowing your guys' thoughts on where this story goes next. Now that it doesn't seem like anything has been resolved, and it looks like maybe Swerve will get another opportunity at the Cruiserweight Championship. Dusty, what do you think?
I think that's absolutely where it has to go. He's the only man to ever beat Phantasma. Now he's got that second win, and so I feel like they have to have a match for the Cruiserweight title. If he's going to move up into a different title scene off of the Cruiserweight, I know that they're always careful to announce him at very close to the 205-pound weight limit. So I think that they may be moving him up soon. So I think Swerve Scott would be an amazing Cruiserweight champion. I wouldn't want to see Phantasma lose, but at the same time, if he was about to lose, I think those two work together beautifully, and it would be the best way to blow off this feud would be for Swerve to pick up that championship.
And Brennan, what are your thoughts after the match?
I have to. We're looking at they're building towards another match between Swerve and whatever you want to call him this day, Santos Escobar, I guess.
Yes.
It's so weird not to call him Phantasma.
Right?
Yes. Now you mentioned though, or something that I just thought of as both of you were speaking. When it comes to the NXT Tag Championship, Imperium is still in the picture, so they interfered in the match. So do you think, I'm thinking that we may get like a 3-way triple threat for the NXT Tag Champion as well. That involves Joaquin and Raul, which would make good sense and would be a hell of a match.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so good.
Yeah.
I think that Tyler Breeze and Fandango are deeply underrated as wrestlers, both as a tag team and singles wrestlers. Tyler Breeze's match with Jushin Liger was one of my favorite NXT matches ever. I mean, he's great, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves because his kind of character didn't get over on the main roster, I feel like. So it's amazing to see all these guys that are all so good and so technically proficient, and they're all kind of masters of a different style, and so to get to see them work together in that triple threat tag team match, I am so excited for that. And the melange of styles is just going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a real clinic in tag team wrestling.
Absolutely.
And, this is just on a side note, someone that I haven't given as much airtime on, really, because of everything that's happened over the past few weeks. But a big congratulations to Damian Priest, who became the new North American champion at TakeOver 30. And he did a interview with WWE in Espanol earlier this week, now talking about, this evolution to Damian Priest, his character, and becoming the new North American champion. I always got to represent. Saludos, congratulations, felicidades to the Archer of Infamy, Damian Priest, now your new North American champion. And that match in and of itself, gosh. This week, Timothy Thatcher did defeat Bronson Reed in a singles match, but Damian Priest and Bronson Reed were the two highlights of that match for me. Even, oh man, what's that other guy with the hat? I'm trying to remember. But
I know who you're talking about.
This old age, you guys, seriously, don't get older. Just don't get older. Cameron Grimes.
Yeah.
He had a really great performance in that ladder match as well. So that he was someone that there was literally one or two times I thought, oh my gosh, he may actually win. But Bronson Reed and Damian Priest were the two highlights of that particular match for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, Damian Priest is so good. It's amazing.
Yes. And that ladder match was really built around, new stars. You could get a sense that they were leaning towards Damian Priest in the qualifiers. He got a little bit more attention in his lead up towards winning his match where, especially Bronson Reed came out of nowhere, his qualifier. So, that in and of itself was a big surprise. But we're running the world. We're repping the new North American champion. And real quick for next week's NXT, of course, I mentioned Finn Balor versus Adam Cole for the NXT Championship, and in a cage match, we are going to get Mercedes Martinez. I can't even get it out. It's so crazy. Mm-hmm. It's so crazy.
I'm so pumped for this. Sorry.
No, I try. Rhea Ripley versus Mercedes Martinez in a cage. So again, NXT next week is going to be on a Tuesday, and I'm sure we'll see another chapter in Legado de Fantasma. We'll continue to see that story develop. It does not seem to be going away anytime soon. Again, I think that there's a good opportunity for Raul and Joaquin to be part of the tag team title scene, and then it doesn't seem like anything's resolved yet between Isaiah Swerve Scott and Santos Escobar. So we will see. But again, as always, the NXT are available on luchacentral.com. And finally, as far as what would we say? I don't want to say it because we're at the end, because we're not at the end yet. But at this chapter of today's show, we have some CMLL news regarding their upcoming anniversary show and their iPPV.
Yes, and so the iPPVs are going to start on Friday. It's not too late to well, actually, by the time you're hearing this, it will be too late to buy them at the cheap price, but that's fine. It's the difference between $5 and $6 for Americans.
Yeah.
So, you're not, and then because there's no video on demand option, I agree with other people online that say, if you don't know for sure you're going to be able to buy it, say you're double booked like me, where you're doing Thunderdome and you want to watch the iPay-per-view, you figure out if you can watch it or not, and then pay for it. But they have announced the lineup for that. You've got Diamond against El Coyote, Audaz Jr. against Espirito Negro and Rey Kamata, Marcela and Heat against Dallas and Reina Isis, Gran Guerrero, Ultimo Guerrero against Flyer, Star Jr., Volador Jr., Barbario, Cavanario versus Felino. And then somewhere in there, Bandito was added to the card.
I'll always take some extra Bandito in my wrestling.
Right?
It's so good, yeah.
I started to look it up, who he replaced. I'm like, I don't care. So they didn't announce it on the official card, which I could find it, but I saw someone else mention that he is replacing somebody. So I'm just fine with my extra Bandito. This is the first of the 4 IP pay-per-views that are going to culminate in the anniversary, which is going to be a little more expensive. I believe it's going to go about $12 in American, if I did my conversion right. Or you could just get all 4 for $17. But again, I don't recommend it unless you know you can watch all 4.
Yeah.
They've given us, we alluded to the polls on this last week, so I'm just going to go ahead and go right on ahead and what championships are on the line and who they've got polling. I'm not going to tell you how they're doing because by the time you hear this, that could all have changed. But first up was the Mexican Women's Champion with La Metallica as the champion. You can vote for Luvia, Reina, La Jarochita, or Estrelita. Then you have the CMLL Women's Championship, where Marcella is the champion, and you can vote for Princess Sugahit, Amapolita, or Dallas. Like she needs more belts.
I saw her in a documentary on Netflix that I watched recently again, and I just really like Dolly. It's like such a good character.
She's great, and I actually won't complain if she gets more belts. But she also
she's a champion.
Then the Micro Estrelitas Championship with Chamuel as the champion. You have Microman, El Guapito, and Galito. And I mean, this one I will comment on. Microman is probably going to win that. Like, he's crushing the polls, and I don't think that's going to change. But
he's a star.
We have the Mexican National Trios Championship with NGD as the champions. And the challengers here are the Casas family, Negro Casas, Felino, and Tiger. Or you have Valiente, Guerrero Maya, and Estinge. Or the Panther family, Blue Panther, Black Panther, Blue Panther Jr. Or Virus, Raziel, and Cancerbero, I believe. I keep trying to say a different word for that. But that is my personal pick because Virus, again, is another great technician, and I would love to see more of him wrestling. But the polls could go any different way. There's the Panthers are a popular team. The Casas family is hugely popular, and that's all technical teams, too. So I'm going to be happy pretty much with any of these. Even Valiente, Guerrero, Mayo, and Estinge is a pretty good mat wrestling team.
Yeah.
Then you have the CMLL Trios Championship held by Los Guerreros, and you can vote for Mephisto, Luciferno, and Mephisto, the Hijos del Inferno, Titan, Audaz, Star Jr., Barbario, Cabanaro, Hechicero, and Terrible. I know. It sounds like I know who Dusty's voting for, but I was voting.
I love Rudos.
Side too, but I'm going for the demon there, the Hijos del Inferno.
Yes, that'll be cool too. So good. Everybody in there is amazing. There's no wrong choice. Yeah, and then 2 more. The CMLL Tag Championship, which is held by Mystico and Caristico, and you can choose from Angel de Oro and Nebula Roja, or Diamante Azul and Stuka Jr., Flyer and Atlantis Jr., or Rey Kamata and Espiritu Negro. Again, this is another one where there's really no, it's defines a little bit of styles maybe, but these matchups, Mystico and Caristico, I'm excited to see any of them. And lastly, the Welterweight Championship, which is held by Volador Jr., Sobranario Jr., Templario,
I have a sneaking suspicion Bandito is going to be running away with that no matter what time you look at the polls. But, I mean, again, this is another one where I'd be just as excited to see Sobranario or Templario in there. So, like, this is going to be a loaded card no matter where the voting goes. So get over. We have the links on Lucha Central. So if you know how to get to CMLL's English version of the site, you might be able to get there easier from Lucha Central. Or you can just do a Google Translate of the CMLL site like I did.
Sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I've got for CMLL. Did you guys have any more thoughts on those matchups, or any other news that I might have?
No news. I think that covered it. I'm just excited to see the whole thing. Like I say, I'm excited to see Bandito ahead in the poll too, the welterweight poll. He's a champion, and I think putting that belt on him, especially with Ring of Honor starting back up, that it kind of gives him some eyes on the product, and it would get some eyes on the belt if he's a champion. And so, like, I like that.
Yeah, I'm super happy with all of this. It's going to be a fun show. I feel like we should do some sort of live watching experience with this, but we'll need to talk about that. All right, so that where are we headed next? luchacentral.com. So if you're reading this or listening to this, I'm reading. Look at that. And you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. Luchacentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find best curated video content and content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of all this, it's a centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
And speaking of luchacentral.com, we have one of our signature segments this week in Lucha Libre history.
You can't remember when. Well, now you can say it's time for this week in Lucha Libre.
That's right. Now it's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in at luchacentral.com every single day for This Day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera for information, birth dates, anniversaries, and amazing videos. I mean, tons of great stuff all about Lucha Libre. luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week, I chose September the 6th, 1989, for the hair versus hair Apuestas match between Blue Demon Sr. and El Matematico. I mentioned this last week, but I kind of wanted to expand this. 1989 was a huge year for Blue Demon. He had decided on a retirement in 1989, and due to that, he had retirement shows in most of the major cities in Mexico. Last week's Mask versus Mask match was his farewell to Monterrey, the town where he became well known. Like, that was where he was from. But this week's match was his farewell to Arena Mexico and Lucha Libre, and it was the final match of his illustrious career. I couldn't find any video of this match, but if any fans out there have video of this and would be willing to send it to me on Facebook or Instagram, hit me up with a link, because I would really, really like to see this. Brendan, what match did you pick this week?
So this week I chose September 2nd, 2000, and this was Dragon Lee in a Mask versus Mask match at an anniversary show with La Mascara. In addition to this being an anniversary show, it's you have Dragon Lee is being seconded by his brother Roosh, who is currently in the Mascara, who is his teammate in the Ingo Brown. So all kinds of swirling drama was going on in this match, plus some amazing and then to top it off, those of you who know who I'm talking about, Tirantes is the ref. So you have kind of you have. I love this. It was obviously a 3-fall match. You had Roosh cheating, and yet somehow the crowd was cheering for it. And you have all of the drama going on. with the brother and him seemingly not a Mascara. At some point, both and Dragon Lee second, who were ejected from the match, but they managed to go back into the match near the end of the third fall, wrestling. And then at the end of it, you have La Mascara getting unmasked after a really amazing looking bomb. I can't even the maneuver. It was like it sounds like you might have seen it, but I don't know what that actual maneuver was at the end.
I don't remember. I actually watched it, at the time. I bought a T-shirt from Masked Republic with the poster of the shirt on it. It's so good, but I don't remember the specific move.
That's more than fine. I mean, you had a lot of drama going through the whole thing. At the end, you have the two of them hug, and then Rush comes back into the ring and cuts a promo where he more or less declares that La Mascara is truly an ingobernable, and they hug and walk off, and Dragon Lee looks amazingly confused. And then Mystico comes out, gives him a hug, and that was where my footage cut off. But clearly there was a little bit more that goes, and those of us who are Ingobernables fans are well aware that those two stayed thick as thieves up until the time where contracts broke them up before they actually broke up that faction. So it was a great match. Fantastic.
Los Ingobernables is for life.
For life.
Para si por vida.
What did you have for us?
So I did something a little different, and this particular event popped out, mainly because of what it is, but also I started to see a lot of people post on social media about this event from last year and in the year before, and specifically the year before. So I wanted to highlight this and talk about it a little bit more, because it's much more of a recent event. I picked August 31st, 2018, and that is when Masked Republic held the first edition of Expo Lucha at the Westgate Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's just much more of a recent event, especially for American Lucha Libre fans. Expo Lucha seemed to have been something so unique that American Lucha Libre fans could participate in and be a part of. And bringing all of that together in the United States just doesn't seem as common or as heard of. And I know, Brendan, you've been able to go to an Expo Lucha. So I was interested actually in getting some of your thoughts on what that event means to you.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you had mentioned that it seems so unique and all that, because one of the biggest standout memories that I had, in addition to 4 amazing cards of wrestling, was I had about an hour-long conversation with Pilote Suicida about Lucha Libre, and it started with him thanking me for showing up. He's behind there selling merch, and he's like, "Thank you for coming out. I had no idea American fans would turn up for this sort of thing," and he was just very genuinely impressed that at the amount of love that he was receiving from an audience he had no idea was so welcoming to him. I mean, so we talked for, like I said, a good long hour about what it was like for him to do shows before, and then just the amount of joy he had bringing this product to us, and the pride he was seeing in seeing his old do it, as well as seeing a lot of the younger kids do it. We had a lot of names on that Future Stars of Lucha Libre show that happened on the first night that people will probably recognize all over the place now, but back then they were 18-year-olds that may or may not have destiny on their side, or maybe they have to go to college or something. But I feel like because
you talk about some of the names on even that overall card for that first show. I mean, you had names like Daga, Hijo de Fantasma, with Fantasma, Damian, and Bestia 666, and Negro Navarro. A lot of big names that were part of that first night. And then, of course, the AAA show, the second night, moving to Killer Cross, now known as Carrion, Black Tortoise, Aerostar, again, Hijo Tejano Jr., Psycho Clown, LA Park. I mean, like that. Just that was all in like the course of 1 week.
Yeah, and you had time. I mean, if you didn't catch it, you had time to go around and talk to these people. Like, even people like, and I don't remember which show, if it was this show or the second show, like LA Park, who was notoriously antisocial, was somewhat available. You had time to go and try and talk to him. So yeah, you had you get this really unique opportunity to be close and personal and talk with wrestlers. They also had artists that had done a number of things. They had 1 year they had Rey Mysterio's costume designer there, and so you had all of his masks and costumes through the year, and you could stand next to parts of it and get photos. He would tell you stories about the design process on that. Yeah.
I wish I could have done that. Like, that is right up my alley, the gear design.
Well,
right? I love that.
You know, the future is still bright, because even though Expo Lucha was canceled for 2020, it's postponed. It is still scheduled for Saturday, June 12th and June 13th, 2021 in Philadelphia at the historic ECW, formerly known as ECW Arena. So that's also for everyone else out there. As we're talking about Expo Lucha as far as the first year hosting, don't miss out. Expo Lucha is coming back next year. I for sure am going to do everything in my power to be there. So make sure everyone and hopefully all three of us could finally be there.
I'm totally already
amazing.
there.
Maybe we could. Yeah. It's my dream to record one of our podcasts live with Lucha. So
shut up. All right, goals. We said it. We put it out in the universe. If we all are there at Lucha Expo 2021, we are going to record a live edition for Weekly podcast. Even if that means setting up a table in the parking lot, we will. So don't you worry about that. It
might be a very short episode because there's so much to do, but we will do it.
We will do it. Yeah. So, again, that was This Week in Lucha Libre History. Make sure you go check out This Day in Lucha Libre History on luchacentral.com. Some of these days does include YouTube links to their matches, so make sure you stay tuned. And every week we change it up. You get to know and learn a little bit more about Lucha Libre history. And now a commercial from one of our partners, thechairshot.com.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
And for our final few news stories, we have some returns, actually, of some well-known American wrestling promotions. The first one, Ring of Honor, which we, not too long ago, they're making their return. But we have more information about the return, plus the competitors of the peer tournament. Brendan, why don't you take us on what is updated or what news is coming out of Ring of Honor?
All right. Well, so they, I believe this before, that they are planning on filming soon. We know now that they plan on airing the Pure tournament September 12th, and it's going to take place over 8 weeks. That's not necessarily the only thing they're going to be doing, but that tells you right there that they're going to be aggressively scheduling programming to have things ready very soon. And then we have the field of competitors. So let's just go right ahead and jump right into that. So first up, I've got PJ Black. If it's for the Lucha fans, hopefully that gets excited right off the bat. And he is also a good grappler, so I'm very excited to see what we're gonna do with this. Dalton Castle, who's a ROH standby and also fantastic. Furious, who's been a mainstay for ROH for years. Newcomer Tony Deppen, who the fans of the Indies will be very familiar and very not surprised to see him in this tournament. Hopefully you will see good things from David Finlay, as in that Finlay, but not the same guy, just that family. Jonathan Gresham, who everybody when ROH announced this knew Jonathan Gresham was going to be in the tournament. Kenny King, who I believe is representing the Facción Ingobernable.
Yes, yes.
And Lethal, Key Romero, another mainstay of Lucha fans. Matt Sydal, Rust Taylor, Tracy Williams, Josh Woods, Fred Yehai, Silas Young, and Wheeler Utah. So you've got a few good lucha names in here and lots of great grappler names. So I expect to see a lot of grappling style matches out of this, and I'm very, very excited to watch all of these.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. It's great that Ring of Honor is returning. I think for the wrestling purists out there, this tournament is definitely going to be something they're looking forward to.
So we're gonna have a couple of. Sorry, I had someone trying to talk to me there. We're gonna have that tournament. We're gonna have some other ROH matches being filmed, I'm sure. But speaking of more matches being filmed and returns, I'm gonna jump right ahead to MLW, who announced this week that they are starting what they call the Restart, and they will be filming that. They will be filming in October. And then they haven't really even given us a lot more details because they're still alluding to the fact that it could be rebranded back as the old Underground name instead of sticking with Fusion.
Yeah, very cool.
And I think it was them bringing back some of the episodes of Underground on YouTube recently. It's definitely helped regenerate that fan base. And Fusion in itself is a great product as well, so I don't think they can go wrong either way, but it definitely is just, kind of what direction does the company want to go in with their television. I think Underground was necessary at the time. It kind of filled in a gap that ECW left. So I think that was very suitable, but now, the wrestling television has evolved. So of course you have this Underground concept that is still very unique and different. There's still a gap from Lucha Underground, but I think the MLW Underground product and the Lucha Underground product are fairly different, even in that. So if they were to return, it would definitely be something different that's on television, but I don't know if they really need to do that, whereas Fusion is more of, a product of a lot of the television and wrestling that we see now and that structure. And it's been also very successful because it does focus on really good storytelling and storylines. And their roster isn't as, as well known to fan bases in the, if you're not really familiar with independent wrestling. So sometimes the storytelling is how you grab in those new.
Absolutely. And they've always been really good at that, and so I'm very excited to see how they're going to utilize this. And as we've mentioned many times on the show, they're very lucha friendly with L.A. Park and his family being primary players. There's a lot of very exciting things that could come out of this product.
Oh, the Familia de la Park that's my jam. I love it. They do it so right in MLW with them.
So, yes, both when Ring of Honor and MLW come back, I have a feeling that we may see some of that coverage on Lucha Central, or, of course, we're going to be covering it here on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. And that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening in. Of course, we will be back next week. And, definitely some interesting topics. One topic that we will be discussing is the new documentary that details and highlights the career of Vampiro, Nail in the Coffin. So make sure that you come back next week as we are going to discuss. Yeah, that's going to be a big topic because of just how fascinating it is. And really, it's gotten a lot of press and a lot of coverage. And of course, with Vampiro being really a legend in Lucha Libre, his involvement in AAA, there's definitely layers to this, not only within the story of his career, but, his life in Mexico and the story of Lucha Libre. So make sure you stay tuned next week, as well as us covering all of the news happening in the world of Lucha Libre in Mexico and States. Make sure that you follow Lucha Central on social media at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram. and at luchacentral.com on Twitter. Of course, you can always check out the Lucha Central YouTube page that has lots of great matches and interviews. And of course, luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. But after you do all of that, come and follow us, the hosts, on social media. Dusty, can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
I'm on Instagram at Dusty Murphy and Facebook.com/Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
Okay, so I am on Instagram, 321 T-shirt guy. I still haven't gotten to even read the full message. He asked me something about food. I remember that, but I didn't write it down because I got in there, I read the messages, and realized that I had an update on Twitter where something cool happened. So that brings me right to, I am at 321 T-shirt guy on Twitter as well. And then I also on Twitter, I have it in the profile. I'm Miranda's official inbox on Twitter. So talking both of us there.
Yes, you could talk. You could reach out to me through Brendan's Twitter. I myself, Miranda Morales. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the # Miranda spelled out. Feel free to let us know what you think of the show. And of course, as always, we thank you all for listening. Make sure that you subscribe to your favorite podcast platform so that way you get on when this show drops, even though it's every Friday. You want to know exactly when that happens. So make sure you subscribe. Also, feel free to leave any comments and rate us on any of these podcast platforms and let us know how we're doing. We want to know from you. What kinds of stories would you like for us to cover? What kinds of things would you like to hear on this show? But always thank you all so much for listening. We will be back next week. For Brendan Barr and Dusty Murphy, I am Miranda Morales. Thank you, and have a great week.